All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jacob Quintana, and this is Cal State LA's transfer guide to the Cal State Apply application for the spring 2026 semester. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, thank you all for joining us here today for Cal State LA's transfer guide. And really, it's just kind of like a helpful tool for you to kind of understand what's involved in the application for spring 2026 within the Cal State Apply application. So again, we hope it's very helpful for those of you who may have questions. But awesome. All right. So if you're here today, that means you are interested in joining either Cal State LA or one of the schools within the CSU system for spring 2026, which is quickly approaching. And as it's mentioned there, the actual application period for spring 2026 is open from August 1st to August 31st, 2025. Okay, so just go ahead and make sure to keep that in mind. And yes, so we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so before beginning the actual application, which is on Cal State Apply, you definitely want to make sure you have your items in order before actually, sitting down and, beginning to fill it out. So to begin, first things first, and arguably one of the most important, is you want to make sure to have your unofficial transcript ready to go. And what I mean by that is you want to make sure to have it in front of you so that you're actually taking a look at it and you're reporting the classes that you have in your transcript in the actual application, okay? We do not want to be going off memory. We don't want to be thinking like, oh, like I took it, I may have taken an English class my freshman year. I think I got a C grade in it, or a B grade, or an A. I'm going to go ahead and input that into the application. Okay, so we want to make sure we're inputting things correctly and accurately um, as it's shown in your transcript into the actual application, okay, which includes unit count, the name of the course, the grade received in the course, and so on. Okay, so accuracy is definitely really important when it comes to filling out the application. The next thing you want to have on is your social security number. You want to make sure to have that on you. And that's only applicable, of course, applicable if you have one. If you don't, no need to worry. You can definitely go ahead and proceed with the application without it. We just ask that students have it because oftentimes students like may or may not know their social security number. So they kind of either just put a bunch of zeros or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever it may be. But we don't want you to guess because then you have to do an extra step and then, provide some documentation which will allow you to change your social security number that you have on file here with us. And that's really just an extra step that we don't want you to take a part of, right? So um, have your social security number if you have one so that you can report it accurately. If not, just go ahead and indicate that you don't have one. Otherwise, you definitely want to know your citizenship status. And what we mean by that is the application will ask you if you're a California resident, for example, right? So what that means is if you've been living in California for either more than a year, or if you graduated from a California high school or went to a community college here in California, which is really important, okay? Just please note that all of this information is confidential and it's not shared with any entities other than the university. Okay, so this information is secure, so just please keep that in mind. You definitely also want to have a method of payment ready to go, and that's more so important towards the end of the application because it's important to note that each application to the CSU, or to each CSU campus rather, so for example, Cal State LA, Cal State Fullerton, Cal State Long Beach, right? Each one of those applications is going to cost $70. Okay, that's 70, that's 70. So you want to make sure to have your debit card, credit card ready to go. Otherwise, if you're receiving the application fee waiver, then of course that wouldn't apply to you because you're already getting those items for free. You definitely want to know your annual income as well. And that's our next topic of conversation. So you want to know how much you're making a year if you're considered an independent student. If you're dependent, meaning you're being supported by your parents or anything of the sort, you want to make sure you know your parents' income as well because that will have to be reported within the actual application. Okay, so again, if you're a dependent, meaning you rely on your parents or guardians or anyone else, you need to know the annual income of those specific people. Otherwise, if you're independent, you got to know your own income, so you got to make sure to have some tax documents available, or maybe even just some pay stubs. Next on the list is your campus ID, or we call CCC ID. So it's kind of this new initiative that we have going on within the CSU system to kind of actually just not translate, but kind of move over coursework that you've taken at the community college level. Um, and it'll automatically get filtered over into your actual Cal State Apply application. So this will probably save you anywhere between 20 to 30 minutes within the actual application, which is super helpful. So if you go ahead and fill that information out, go ahead and create the account, link the accounts, it'll save you a lot of time. But we'll get into that shortly. And also your parents' employment background and two recommendations. So that specifically applies for any students who are interested in the EOP program here at Cal State LA. So if you're coming from a community college, you know that they have a program there that's called EOPNS, which stands for Educational Opportunity Programs and Services. We have a very similar thing here in the CSU system. It's called EOP, which stands for Educational Opportunity Program. Although some of the programs and services differ, the overall principle is the exact same, right? So it's to generally help students from any low income or first generation student backgrounds to help make sure that you're advancing within the or our organization, right? So whether it's Cal State LA or the CSU system. All right, so again, just a friendly reminder, right? So for spring 2026 admissions, as highlighted in this little chart right here, the actual application deadline would be from it opens up August 1st and it ends August 31st. So you want to make sure you're going ahead and starting the application early and finishing on time. You don't want to start it on the 31st, right? Because there might be some information that you're missing and you won't be able to obtain until maybe after that date. Okay, so please keep that in mind. The earlier you start the application, the earlier you can submit it and get that peace of mind. Okay, so again, August 31st is the deadline, and today is August 12th. So that leaves about a little bit over 2 weeks to go ahead and complete that application. Okay. So to begin, how do I apply? How do I begin the application? Where do I go? It's called Cal State Apply, right? That's the name of the website. And first things first, you want to make sure you're selecting the right term when you're applying, right? As shown here, you're going to see that there's different terms. Fall 2023, summer 23, spring 2023. Obviously, that those are older years, older dates and stuff like that, but you may still see fall 2025 available, right? You definitely want to make sure you're hitting spring 2026. Otherwise, your application won't go through. Okay, so again, make sure you hit spring 2026 when you're applying between August 1st to August 31st for consideration into the spring 2026 semester. Another thing we want to talk about is emails, right? Like which email should you use? Should I use my school email? The answer is no, right? You don't want to use your school email or any emails you may or may not have access to anymore because basically we're going to send you all your receipts, all your documents, any correspondence to your personal email, right? We want to make sure that you're actually able to read those emails and all that stuff. And the best way to do that is an email you check very often and an email you will continue to have access to, right? A big problem we see is that students use their community college or high school emails. And then, of course, once they graduate or they earn their degree, um, they don't have access to that email anymore because they're technically no longer students at that institution, right? They've already completed their coursework. So please use your personal email when creating the account so that you can continue to receive information from the universities you apply to. All right, folks. So getting into the first step of the actual application, we call this the extended profile, which will kind of set the tone for the entire application. Okay. So for all of you, whether you're a high school student or transfer student, and by the way, spring 2026 is only open to transfer. So um, you have to indicate first bachelor's degree. Okay. This means you're an undergraduate student on your way to get to transition from an AA or an ADT or maybe just a 60 units into a BA or BS, which is a bachelor's degree, right? So again, you would only indicate second bachelor's degree for any students looking to get a master's, a credential, a certificate, or a doctoral program, right? So again, if you're an undergraduate student, you would hit first bachelor's degree. This next question, which of the following best describes your current educational level? This is oftentimes a big constraint for a lot of students, specifically transfer students. They struggle to indicate either the second option or the third option. The first one only applies for high school students, graduating high school students. So the second option right here, transferring with an associate's degree for transfer awarded by a community college. That would be specifically only for students earning the ADT, which is an associate's degree for transfer, okay? So if you don't know if you're earning an ADT, I encourage you to go ahead and check in with your counselor at your community college or just give them a call and see what you're on track for, okay? Because an AA or an AS is much different from an ADT, okay? Because it's a different program, a different set of classes, all of that stuff. So you would only click the second option if you're earning an ADT, which is an associate's degree for transfer, okay? The third option is for anyone earning an AA or an AS, right? So an Associates of Science, Associates of Arts, or if you're just transferring over with like the minimum 60 units. Okay. So again, the second option is for students with the ADT. The third option is for any students working towards an AA, an AS, an associate's, or just if you have the 60 units available for transfer. All right. The third question right here. By the time you enroll at the CSU campus you are applying to, how many college credits will you have earned? Okay. This is very important to note because this is basically asking you how many credits will you have by the end of the fall semester, right? And that's important for two reasons, right? For one, we need to know if you're an upper division transfer student or a lower division transfer student. But what does that mean, right? A lower division transfer student indicates that you have anywhere between 0 to 59 units. Okay? That basically means you have less than 2 years worth of coursework. An upper division transfer student meaning it means that you have anywhere between 60 to anywhere upwards of 60 units. And just keep in mind that most institutions in the CSU system can only credit or allow you to transfer over with anywhere between 60 to 70 units. But an upper division transfer student is anyone over 60 units. Okay. And the reason why that's important is because the requirements are different. Okay, as a lower division transfer student, meaning you have 59 credits or less, that means you also have to have been eligible to come into the CSU system as a high school student, meaning you would have had to complete your A through Gs, had a 2.5 minimum GPA in high school, and all that stuff. But I'll get into that shortly. Don't worry too much. Please just make sure you talk to your counselor, or maybe take a look at your unofficial transcript to understand how many credits you're going to have by the end of the fall semester, right? Which is the semester that's going to start now. Oh, also, please keep in mind that for spring 2026, technically all of your requirements need to have already have been completed by the end of the summer, right? So there needs to be one term in the middle that it's kind of like a buffer period, right? So for example, for spring 2026 eligibility, all of your coursework needs to have already been completed by the end of the summer session, right? Which is coming to an end now. All right. So another thing that you want to make sure you take a look at is when you're indicating the second option, meaning you're transferring with an ADT awarded by a community college, you're gonna receive a second pop-up, and it's basically going to indicate where you're earning the ADT and what ADT program you're earning. And the reason why we ask you for that information is because you need to have a similar degree when transferring over to a program that needs an associate's degree for transfer. So for example, at Cal State LA, we do require all of our psychology undergraduate students to transfer in with an ADT, right? So for example, you can't just earn an ADT in biology and then transfer over to our psychology program, right? So some programs, especially with major specific criteria, require you to have a similar ADT to the major that you're going into. Okay, so please keep that in mind. So yes, you're going to indicate the community college that you're earning your ADT at, what program you're interested in, and if you're going to be earning a second ADT. So meaning you already have one and you're going to be working towards a second. All right, finishing up the extended profile, we're kind of just asking you right here if you're a returning student. So what that means is if you've previously attended Cal State LA and you took a break and you wanted to come back, or if you previously attended Cal State LA, maybe you got academically disqualified, or you just chose to go to a community college to work on some credits and you want to come back, that's where you will go ahead and indicate this, okay? So if you're returning to the same campus that you once attended, you would indicate yes, right? So again, if you attended Cal State LA and you want to come back to Cal State LA, you would hit yes. However, if you went to like Cal State Fullerton or Cal State Northridge and you're just applying to Cal State LA for the first time, you would indicate no, okay? Because you've never attended Cal State LA in the past. All right, and then of course, we're going to ask you what campus you've attended and what your student ID was. So here at the CSU system, we call those CINs, which is a campus identification number. All right, and then of course we're going to ask you some clarifying questions, right? What scenario applies to you? Did you previously attend? Did you go to any other community colleges after you attended Cal State LA? Were you academically disqualified? So just go ahead and click the one that go ahead and best fits your situation. All right, so this is the last portion of the extended profile, and this is essentially where we ask you if you're an international student, right? So again, a lot of students get confused here and they indicate the wrong item. So right here, we're not asking you if you're a legal resident. We're not asking you if you have a green card, if you're a permanent resident, if you're a legal citizen, anything like that. Okay, so we just want to go ahead and make that clear. What this is asking is if you're going to need a visa to go ahead and come in and study here at Cal State LA, right? So if you're applying from, let's say, if you're applying from Mexico, or if you're applying from Canada, or if you're applying from Spain, or wherever it may be, right? Germany. If you're going to need a visa, or if you require a visa to go ahead and catch a flight and come here to the United States to study at the CSU system. So if you have or will require an F1 visa or J1 visa to study at the CSU, go ahead and answer appropriately, right? So yes or no, right? Again, this is not asking you if you have a visa, if you're here legally, none of that, right? So just go ahead and keep that in mind. The next question is what I want all of you to pay attention to right here, right? What U.S. state possession do you regard as your permanent home? Again, this is not asking you about your legal residency. What it's asking you is what do you call home? What place do you call home? Essentially, where have you been living, right? So if you're here in California right now, you would indicate, right, the US, right? The United States. All right, so once you've completed your extended profile, which again, as I mentioned, it kind of sets the tone for the entire application. So you want to make sure you're answering all of those items correctly and accurately. Once you move on from the extended profile, we're going to ask you what degrees and what campuses you want to go ahead and apply for. So what I typically find helpful is like this big red circle right here in the middle, which allows you to search for a program or organization and filter out. So if you're only interested, like let's say for example, you're only interested in Northridge, Long Beach, Cal State LA, and maybe San Diego State, you can go ahead and filter out the schools that you actually want to apply for, right? So those specific 4 CSU campuses, okay? Just so you don't have to see all the other ones and get distracted, right? It'll only show you the majors that are available at those specific universities. Okay, so go ahead and use the filter option if you find it helpful. Otherwise, you can just go ahead and scroll up and down the list. But basically, that section that's right here, right below that big red circle, is going to be the campus name. So the first thing we want you to take a look at is the campus name, right? For one, you want to make sure you're applying to the correct campus. Also, please keep in mind that to the far left of that, you're going to see that there's an example of Bakersfield undergraduate majors, right? Some of our campuses, especially Cal State LA, we have not only our main campus, so it's going to say Cal State LA, but we also have the Cal State LA downtown campus, okay? And those are going to populate under different categories. So if you're looking to apply for the main campus, which I'm assuming most of you are, you want to make sure you click the Cal State LA undergraduate programs and not the downtown campus, okay? And you're going to see right here, right next to the campus name, to the left of it, there's going to be basically a little area that says main campus, okay? So again, you want to make sure you're looking through each one of those like categories to make sure everything looks appropriate. So in your case, right, let's say you're a student who's interested in CSU Bakersfield, okay? You're interested in anthropology, specifically cultural resource management. The start term to the right of that is spring, right? Because all of you are applying for spring 2026. The academic year would be 2026. The location would be the main campus, not the downtown campus. And then, of course, the appropriate campus and then the deadline. Okay, so you want to make sure you're reading all the way across correctly. Again, because we have different downtown campuses, satellite campuses, different terms, different programs, all of that stuff. Okay, and once you're done, like once you actually find your program and campus that you're interested in, to actually add it to your application, you're gonna have to hit the plus sign at the far left-hand side. Okay, so once you hit that plus sign, it'll actually add it to your application. And once you find all of the appropriate campuses and programs, you're gonna hit continue at the bottom. Okay, and it's gonna ask you, are you sure you want to proceed? Just go ahead and hit yes. All right, so congratulations, right? You filled out the extended profile. You've let us know what programs and campuses you're interested in. Now, this is what we call the actual Cal State Apply application, right? We have 4 different quadrants. We even have little trackers on there that make it really easier for you to track your progress. Um, Arguably the most time-consuming one would be the personal information section, which is quadrant 1 at the top left-hand side, and then academic history, which is quadrant 2 at the top right-hand corner. And the reason why is because we just ask for the most information there, right? So for personal information, we're going to ask you for general income, your first name, your last name, your home address, your social if you have one, all of that stuff. Academic history is definitely the most time consuming because that's where you're going to have to actually answer your classes that are reported, right? I'm sorry, that you've taken. right? So again, that's why it's helpful to have your unofficial transcript ready to go, or at least your student portal, so you can let us know exactly what classes you've taken at the community college level, or even like any other four-year university. To let us know what grade you received, how many credits you received, and the specific name of the course that you took. Right? Then we have supporting information at the bottom left-hand corner. That's particularly focused on like students who are interested in EOP. So if you're interested in the EOP program, there's going to open up a bunch of sections for you. But if you're not interested in the EOP program, the section really only takes a few minutes to fill out. Same thing with program materials, which is the bottom right-hand quadrant. This is essentially for any programs that have any additional requirements. So for example, if you're like interested in the music program here at Cal State LA, specifically the Music BM program, which is the Bachelor's of Music, it's going to ask you a few questions, right? We're going to ask you, like what you were involved in, all that stuff. Do you have these requirements fulfilled? Or any programs that might have additional requirements. So for example, our psychology program, it's going to ask you if you're on track to earning an ADT. Did you take the appropriate psychology and sociology courses, all that stuff? Okay. But don't worry too much. We're going to take a deep dive into each and every one of these. All right, folks. So again, as I mentioned, we try to make it really easy for you here at the CSU system to actually allow you to track your progress, right? Hence why we have the green little tracker there. So once the actual block or quadrant is complete, as shown right here on the bottom right-hand corner, quadrant 4, under program materials, you're going to see that the item is filled up in green, and it's going to let you know that you're done. Okay, but we always encourage you to go ahead and like monitor each section, click on it, review it, just to make sure everything looks good. All right, so quadrant 1, this is the personal information section. Um, First thing on the list is the release statement. It really only takes a few minutes to fill this out. Really, you just have to read a few items, let us know if you're comfortable with filling out the application and some of the legality issues, right? So we encourage you to read that thoroughly, check the boxes, let us know that you've read them and all that stuff. Second thing is biographic information. Again, that's everything about you. What's your first name? What's your last name? Where do you live? Where'd you go to school? All that stuff. Contact information, right? Your phone number, your email, a little bit more information beyond that as well. Mhm. Fourth thing on the list is citizenship/residency information. Again, folks, we're never going to ask you if you have a visa, if you're here legally in the United States, none of that. So please get that peace of mind, right? We're never going to ask you about that. What we're really asking for you in this section is, what do you regard as your permanent home? Right. So again, if you've been living in California, California has been your permanent home, right? You live here in California, right? Or if you've been living in Arizona and you're currently applying from Arizona or Florida, right? Of course, you would answer accordingly, right? So that would be Arizona, whatever it may be. Next thing on the list is race and ethnicity, right? Do you identify as Hispanic, Latino, Asian Pacific Islander, whatever it may be, right? You just have to select the appropriate sections. And then we ask for a few more things like other information and financial and parental information. So again, um, if you're an independent, meaning you support yourself, this is where you're going to have to report your own income. And if you're a dependent, meaning you're being supported by your parents, that's where you're going to have to report their income. And I do want to go ahead and let all of you know that the reason why we ask for this information is to see if you're eligible for the actual fee waivers. So I know I talked about that a little bit earlier, but basically every CSU campus that you're applying for, right? So Cal State LA, Cal State Fullerton, Cal State Long Beach is a $70 fee. Okay, each one is $70. However, if you fit the income categories, specifically in the financial and parental information, that's where we're going to go ahead and actually assist you with maybe potentially offering you a fee waiver. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And again, you want to make sure you're answering everything correctly, honestly, and then accurately. All right, folks, so this is academic history, which is arguably the most time consuming because, again, you have to input your credits, your grades, what classes you've taken. So to begin, if you're transferring into Cal State LA as a lower division transfer or any other CSU, again, this means you had to have been eligible from high school, but you chose to go to a community college. Okay, so that means you had to have completed all of your A through Gs in high school, right? So the proper 4 years of English, 3 years of minimum math, right? 1 year of US history, 1 year of social science, all of that stuff. You got a 2.5 minimum GPA, and you completed all of those courses with a C- grade or better. Okay. That's to be eligible as a lower division transfer, which indicates that you have 59 credits or less at the community college level, but you just want to transfer over already. Okay. As an upper division transfer, you do not need to report high school information, nor do you have to have been eligible from high school. Okay, so as an upper division transfer, which typically indicates that you have upwards of 60 units or 2 years or more worth of coursework, this means you have a fresh start, right? That means you transferred over from a community college. We're never going to ask you about high school information. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because as a lower division transfer, you're going to have to let us know what high school you've attended and the academic information from that high school. So again, your 8 through Gs, your 2.5 GPA, C minus grade or better. Okay. However, as an upper division transfer student, meaning 60 units or more, you really just have to kind of let us know what high school you have attended so we can go ahead and take a look at it. But again, we're not going to look at that information or ask you for any of that information as an upper division transfer student, only as a lower division. So as an upper division transfer student and a lower division transfer student, you are both held to the same standard when it comes to colleges attended and college coursework, which is the third and fourth section here on the list. We still need to know exactly what courses you've taken at the community college level, of course, including the credits, the grades, and the specific courses you've taken. Okay, so again, this is why it's super helpful to have your unofficial transcript in your hand, or at least on your computer and easily accessible, so that we can go ahead and assist you. I'm sorry, so that you can go ahead and help yourself as far as like inputting the information correctly and accurately. The next section on that list is standardized tests. This is where we're going to ask you if you've taken any AP exams, right? Any CLEP exams, CLEP exams, right? CLEP, or any interbaccalaureate or IB exams. In which case you would go ahead and report those accurately within the application. You would let us know, just let us know what score you got and all that stuff. And please know that those are also due to us as well. Not only do you owe us official transcripts from the community colleges you've attended, but you also owe us those test scores so we can verify them. And then lastly, general education, the last tab on this list. This is essentially where we ask you about the golden four, right? So if you're new to the whole transfer situation, you'll know that there's some non-negotiables, right? So some things that we need for sure. So as a lower division transfer student, we definitely need written communication, which is formerly known as the A2 block, and the B4 block, which is mathematics and quantitative reasoning. So we need those two as a lower division transfer student for sure. As an upper division transfer student, we also require those two, which is again, written communication and math quantitative reasoning, but we also require a speech course or an oral communication course, as well as a critical thinking course. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and break down each one of those components. So again, we're gonna ask you for your high school information, right? Did you graduate from high school? Um, will you earn a high school equivalency, right? So meaning a GED, or did you just not graduate from high school? If so, you're just going to go ahead and answer accordingly, right? What high school did you attend, and from what years, right? We're also going to ask you what term type, and basically, are you on a full year schedule? Most of you will say semester because if you grew up in California, most of the schools here are on semester system. But some of you have also participated in either trimester or quarter system. The best way to verify this is to call your high school, or just take a look at your high school transcript or get it ordered from your high school to take a look at how the semester breakdown was broken up. But again, folks, we definitely want you to report everything correctly and accurately. So don't guess, please. Like, right, you definitely want to contact your high school and verify this information, um, so that everything goes smoothly in the actual application. This is when you're going to enter your high school coursework. So again, specifically, this is for lower division transfer students because we do need you to be eligible from high school. So again, 8 through Gs, 2.5, C minus or better. You're going to let us know exactly what classes you've taken and at what specific high school you took those classes at, right? So the first thing on the list is what grade level did you take it? And the reason why you see seventh grade shown here is for a specific reason. Uh, you can actually take a foreign language course from seventh and eighth grade, and it can be considered eligible in high school. Same exact thing happens for math and science as well, right? So for example, if you took Algebra 1 in the eighth grade and you entered into high school with geometry or Algebra 2, right? That's definitely possible, right? And that's going to allow you to go ahead and get credit for it as well. So just keep that in mind. But that's the reason why seventh grade is selected there. Yeah, so choose a grade level, choose the actual institution in which you took that class at and which year you took the class, and then so on. This is where you're actually gonna have to type in the class. So the cool thing about this application is, again, we make it really, really easy. We work with a lot of the school districts in the California area to go ahead and get this most up-to-date information. So if you took an English course, right, let's say you took it at Roosevelt High School here in East LA, I'm sorry, Boyle Heights, you would go ahead and start typing, and then you're going to get a drop-down menu of some of the classes that are offered, not only at that specific school, but in the general state of California. So you won't actually have to type in the whole class. It'll automatically pop up for you, right? The more you type in. So again, you want to have your transcript ready so you can start typing it in the way it's shown exactly on your unofficial transcript. Next thing on the list is the course type, right? So is it an English course? Is it math? Is it science? And what semester did you take that course, right? Did you take it in the fall, in the spring? And if you took it in both, you're going to indicate as such. I know some students, like for example, they took, let's say they took a PE or like a, I don't know, let's say a biology. They only took it one semester, right? So let's say they started off with biology in their first semester of sophomore year, but they didn't want to take it their second semester of sophomore year. In that case, for fall, you would put the grade received, and then for spring, you would put no course taken, which is an option in the drop-down menu, right? It's going to be A, B, C, D, F, no course taken, and then there's another option as well, okay? So again, if you only took something in the fall, you would report that course in the fall and the grade you received. And then for the spring semester, obviously, if you didn't take that course, you would just put no course taken. Okay, so just keep that in mind, folks. And then once you're done filling out that entire section, you're going to want to hit the green check mark on the far right-hand side. I know it doesn't look green right now, and that's because the section hasn't been completed, but it's a small check mark right under like the red trash can. But again, once that whole section is completed, you're going to hit that green check mark to let us know you're done inserting that specific course, and then you'll just move on to the next one. And UC Doorways is the name of the website, but it's super, super helpful because it actually lets you know what specific A through G requirement a specific class has met, right? So some of you may not be aware, but history and social science courses are part of the A block, right? And so on. So this is a really helpful tool that will actually allow you to see not only the courses that were available in the term of attendance in high school, but what specific classes fulfill certain requirements. Mhm. So yeah, you can start by looking up your institution at the top right here, and then of course indicate what year you attended. So it'll let you know exactly the catalog for that specific year. All right, and this is a great example of what I was talking about, right? So again, history and social science is the A block, and we need 2 years of that at the high school level or 4 semesters, right? And then on the example right here on the right-hand side, let's say a student here went to East Side High School from 2018 to 2019. The student took drama and received an A plus in both semesters, right? Drama is considered a visual and performing art, so it's automatically indicated as F, right? Spanish too is considered an E block because it's language other than English or foreign language, right? So again, you just want to go ahead and double check those, and the best way to double check that is by accessing UC Doorways, which my colleague Dale went ahead and inputted here in the chat. Very, very helpful tool. I encourage all of you to take a look at it. But again, this is only for students who are considered lower division transfer students, 59 credits or less. All right, so now this applies for everyone, not only lower division transfer students, but also upper division transfer students, because both of you are required to enter college coursework into the application. So to begin, we need you to indicate what kind of degree you're on track to earning, specifically the ADT if you indicated as such. Okay, so if you're earning the ADT, we need to know when you're going to go ahead and fulfill the requirements for that degree, what specific ADT you're going to be earning, a minor if you're earning it, and whether you've already earned it or if you're on track to earning it, right? So again, for spring 2026 eligibility, all of your requirements and coursework had to have been completed by the end of spring, which is the semester that's coming to an end right now, or it's already ended, right? And of course, let us know what track system your school is on, right? So whether it's on the quarter track, the semester track, or the trimester track, just go ahead and let us know. Just for some peace of mind, most universities or most colleges here are on the semester system, and very few are on the quarter system. So just keep that in mind and go ahead and look at that information on your transcript. You're also gonna have to let us know what type of tuition you're paying, right? So in-state tuition, out-of-state tuition, or if it's not applicable to you. So of course, if you're a California resident, you've been here your whole life, or if you've been here for more than a year, it's very likely that you're paying in-state tuition, right? Or for example, if you grew up in Arizona or Texas or Florida, and you recently came to study here at a California college or community college, it's likely that you're paying out-of-state tuition, okay? Or if you've been here for less than a year. But you definitely want to go ahead and just double check that. Go ahead and contact your school's registrars or records office. All right, folks. So now we're going to go ahead and get into the part where you actually have to enter the college coursework, right? Because you already let us know what colleges you've attended, what dates you've attended, and so on. So in this case, the student went to Antelope Valley College, right? Once we're ready to go ahead and insert coursework, we're going to go ahead and put insert coursework. And of course, let us know the term you've attended, right? So during the fall semester, and then the year, which is the next component from 2020 to 2021, you took blank courses, right? Under academic status, it's basically asking you if you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior. For most students here, it's going to be freshman or sophomore. Don't get too confused with that. Like, honestly, I wouldn't stress over this. What freshman standing basically means is that you have 29 units or less. Okay, so that means you're still a freshman because you have 29 units or less. If you have 30 or more, 30 to 60, that means you're a sophomore. And just keep in mind that the reason why that's kind of helpful to us is because to earn a bachelor's degree here at Cal State LA, most majors require anywhere between 120 to 130 units, right? So if you're transferring over with 60 units, that means you already have half your coursework taken, right? So that means you do 2 years at the community college and then 2 years here at Cal State LA, right? And that's the reason we kind of generally ask for that information, but don't stress over to it. Typically, your first 2 semesters, even your first 3 semesters, are going to be under the freshman standing, and then anything after that is sophomore standing. But you can also look at the unit count or credit count to just double check that. The last thing on this column right here, or this row, I'm sorry, is going to be completion status, right? So again, all of the coursework for spring 2026 eligibility needs to have already been completed by the summer, so the term that's ending now. So if the term has already completed or been it's already ended, you would put complete. The only time you would put in progress, which is the only other option under completion status, is if you're taking coursework, let's say, for example, during the fall, or if your which is the term that's about to start, or if your summer session hasn't ended at the time of submitting your application, right? So just keep that in mind. There's only going to be really two options, either in progress or completed. So if you're still taking those courses, the semester hasn't started, or if you haven't received your final grades, you would put in progress. All right, and this is an excellent example of what this looks like. So in this student's example, the student took a class during the spring semester in the year 2019. Academic status was a freshman, right? So obviously they took it their first year, maybe first year and a half. And then completion status means completed, right? Um, so the student started typing in ENGL 10, which is the name of the course they took at, in this case, Antelope Valley College. And again, we make it really easy for you to select because there's going to be a drop-down menu as soon as you start typing. Enter in the course title to the right of that, enter in the subject to the right of that, and of course, let us know how many credits you've earned with that specific class, the grade you received right to the right of that, and then the little check mark right there, which indicates that it's transferable. And some of you might be asking, how do I know if a course is transferable? How do I know if I'm going to get credit for it? And the best tool you can use for community college coursework, I know I mentioned the tool for high school coursework, which is UC Doorways. For community colleges, it's going to be assist.org, specifically California community colleges. Okay. You can go ahead and access that website. As soon as you access that website, you're going to be able to indicate whether, I'm sorry, indicate the specific college you took that course at, what specific course it was, and it'll let you know if it's transferable specifically to Cal State LA. So it's a really cool website. I encourage all of you to use it. And yes, so I recommend all of you to take a picture of this screen just to kind of see how this section is supposed to be filled out. And again, if you're taking any summer courses and maybe the term isn't completed yet, or if the grades haven't been posted, for completion status, which is on the far right-hand side, the top right corner, you would put in progress, okay? Or if you're taking classes for the fall, which is the term that's about to start. All right, and once you're done filling in all of the classes you've taken, freshman year, sophomore year, or any community college coursework, there's going to be a question at the bottom of the screen that's going to ask you, have you completed entering your transcript? In which case, hit yes, and it's going to allow you to proceed to the rest of the application. All right, folks. So entering college coursework in the application. So once you've already completed entering everything, of course, it's going to give you like a summary page. And this is exactly what it's going to look like, right? So it's not going to look like this, where it's kind of like you can edit stuff and answer. And just keep in mind that even though you just hit that, yes, you've completed entering all your college coursework, it's still going to allow you to go back and edit, right? You're just going to have to hit the yes button after making a few edits. But this is what it's going to look like at the review page. So a lot of people have questions about Jacob, like how do I report a class that I repeated? The best advice that I can give you, whether it's like academic renewal or repeats, is you want to make sure you're inputting the information as it's shown on your transcript. Okay. So for example, if you did do like an academic renewal course, meaning you took English 101, but you got like an F grade in it, and you didn't pass, and you decided to go to the academic renewal route, and you've since retaken English 101, right? You're still going to want to report that first course, right? You're just going to, instead of reporting the actual grade, you're going to put AR for the first attempt, which is academic renewal. And then the second attempt where you did successfully pass it with the C grade or better, C minus grade or better, that's where you would actually report the actual uh, course grade. Okay. But again, a general rule of thumb is to report everything as shown in your transcript. So this is that website that I was telling you about that my colleagues went ahead and inputted the link for. This is called assist.org. And this is going to really help you just navigate to see if a course is transferable. So in this case, from Antelope Valley College all the way to Cal State LA. And if it is, you would just go course, hit view agreements here to see if your course is listed on the transferable course list. Mhm. And this is just a little note here that not all community colleges, although we would say a lot, most do, have what we call articulation agreements with our university. So essentially what that means is um, not all community colleges have like a list of transferable courses, but the best thing to do is just connect with your community college, ensure that it's transferable because we do work with most of the community colleges here in California to make sure that everything's fine. And also, like typically speaking, like on an unofficial transcript or official transcript, it'll indicate on the right or left-hand side somewhere whether it's transferable or not. All right, folks. So, as I mentioned earlier, some majors here at Cal State LA and some majors within the CSU system at specific campuses require additional coursework or what we call supplemental criteria or major specific criteria. So we went ahead and inputted a great example here for you of what our criminal justice majors require. So not only do we need above a 2.0, which is the minimum transferable GPA to Cal State LA, but we need a 2.75, right? Unless you're earning the ADT in administration of justice, it's a 2.65. So the ADT version is typically a little easier. Not easier, but just a little bit more straightforward. If you're not earning an ADT, we do require a 2.75. And not only do we need the 60 units, but within those 60 units, we need you to complete a Introduction to Administration of Justice course and a Concepts of Criminal Law course. And I touched on this a little earlier, but this is what we call the Golden Four. So the written communication component, oral communication, critical thinking, and quantitative reasoning. But every university calls those items differently, right? Assist, again, is a very helpful tool as it'll allow you to see what courses are called what in your specific colleges, right? So for example, as I mentioned, Introduction to Administration of Justice is a required course needed to be taken at the community college level before transferring. So here we call it CRIM, CRIM 1010, Administration of Justice. However, at some community colleges, it's called AJ 101, Introduction to Administration of Justice, right? So again, Assist will actually allow you to kind of like indicate or kind of show you what a course might be called at your community college level and what we call it here. All right, and then this is another way you can check to see like what courses you can take at the community college level to see if they are transferable and to see what kind of blocks they do hit. So specifically for the Golden Four, what we call again oral communication, written communication, critical thinking, and math, it'll actually allow you to see what specific classes you can take at your specific community college to fulfill those requirements. And again, kind of like what I touched on earlier, you're gonna have to let us know exactly what courses fulfill those requirements. So in this case, the student took COM 101, Introduction to Public Speaking at Antelope Valley College to fulfill the oral communication block or the oral communication requirement here at Cal State LA. Again, oftentimes the courses are called different things, right? Because we're different institutions. So the best way to verify if that course fits the category is by accessing the website assist.org. Another great example here is at Antelope Valley College, written communication is called college composition or English 10, right? Or critical thinking is called critical thinking and research. Again, if you took any AP, IB exams, CLEP exams, SAT exams, anything of the sort, you can definitely go ahead and report those here within the application. I do want to let you know that we do not require SAT or ACT scores here for admission. You can submit them if you want to, and it'll typically help you out with placement and stuff like that. But that's mostly for students coming in as first-time freshmen, not transfer students. But just keep in mind, we do still require your AP, CLEP, and IB exams if you want to receive college credit for those courses. But if you didn't take any of those exams, just go ahead and hit the button at the top. It's a little hard to see, but it's a white button that says, I am not adding any standardized tests. Again, so we're getting towards the end of the application, so thank you for bearing with me. This is the Educational Opportunity Program application. This is where you indicate if you're interested um, in applying for the ELP program. So it'll ask you some pretty basic questions. If you are interested, it'll go ahead and populate more questions for you. But one of the first questions it'll ask you is if you're currently involved in ELP&S at your community college. And if that is the case, you're just going to go ahead and indicate yes, and at what specific institution. Um, and of course, if you want to go ahead and apply for the EOP program. So just indicate those things as such. Again, just a friendly reminder for the EOP program, not only do you need to fill out a few questions, but you also do need to get some letters of recommendation. Okay, so you definitely want to get those sent out as soon as possible to get that conversation going with your recommenders. All right, folks, so this is the last quadrant. So thank you for bearing with me. This is program materials. So again, this is the section where some majors at some campuses require additional information. Kind of like I gave you the example here under criminal justice, right? Criminal justice here is what we call impacted or just a major that has additional requirements. So not only do you need the 60 units and above a 2.0, which is a 2.75, but you need to take some additional courses at the community college level before transferring over. So this is where we basically ask you like if you fulfill those requirements, and if so, what are those courses that you did fulfill? And some majors may even allow you to upload like a video specifically for like music, for like a um, as like an audition and stuff like that. But yes, so if you're applying to a major that's not impacted, this is typically going to take you like a minute or less to fill out. And same thing with the EOP section or educational program section. If you're not interested in EOP, it'll maybe take you like a minute or less to fill it out. So again, kind of just going back to the actual quadrants and what they look like and how much time they take. Personal information, which is at the top left, um, is going to be like the second most time consuming. Academic history on the top right is going to be the most time consuming because that's where you actually have to input all your coursework and all that stuff. But supporting information at the bottom and program materials can either take you a minute or 5 minutes, depending on how much information you're filling out. Okay, so just keep that in mind. All right, folks. So if you see the screen, and if you see a bunch of green dots, that means you've successfully completed all of the application. That means you've successfully answered all the questions, and meaning you're at the final stretch. So at this point in time, we're really kind of just allowing you to review the application to make sure everything is inputted correctly. So once you're ready to go ahead and submit your application, you're going to go ahead and go to the bar at the top of the quadrants, which indicates submit application. Okay. Submit application will take you to like a final screen. So it's not going to submit it for you automatically. We're going to, let you review the stuff. But hit submit application and it'll take you to the screen shown at the bottom right-hand corner. So in this case, the student is applying to Cal Poly Humboldt for the Forestry and Forest Operations program. And unfortunately, it looks like the student didn't qualify for the fee waiver, so the student does have to pay the $70. Of course, once the fee is paid and everything, the little white submit button will go ahead and populate into a blue button. Okay. And this is a great example of what it looks like for someone who qualifies for the fee waiver and someone who may not. So the example or the screenshot at the top is someone who did not qualify for the fee waiver. But the person at the bottom, the screenshot at the bottom, indicates someone who did, right? So the main difference is that under fees, it's either going to populate as $70 or $0. Okay. And there's typically two different options to submit your documents. So I'm sorry, your application. So you can either submit it campus by campus. So if you're applying to 4 campuses, you can hit the submit button 4 times, or you can just hit the submit all button at the blue button at the top, which will allow you to go ahead and submit all at the same time, right? Save you some time. All right. This is a little bit blurry, but this is the final screen. And this is like the review screen once you hit the submit all button. We're going to point out some errors or what may potentially be an error in your application so we can have you review it just like one last time. And we're going to have some quick links for you to kind of go back and edit and so on. But most of the time, students do a really good job at inputting their information. So just make sure you look at it, make sure everything looks good. And even if it does show like a couple red errors, but the actual information is correct, you can just go ahead and proceed. Yeah, but this is kind of like that last review section of the application. All right, folks, and just a quick little checklist one more time. These are the items you want to go ahead and have with you when applying to the CSU system. So for one, unofficial transcripts, right? You want to make sure you're inputting everything correctly and accurately as you see it on your transcripts. Second thing is you want to report your social security number accurately if you have one, right? So let's say you do have one, but you just don't know what it is, right? And you don't know where to find it, you lost it or whatever. Don't type a bunch of zeros, please, or don't type like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you don't know it, just indicate as such, or if you do have access to it, please go ahead and access it. You definitely want to know your citizenship status to report it. You want to know you want to have a method of payment. So again, each campus fee is $70 unless you qualify for the fee waiver. You want to know your annual income, dependent or independent. And also you want to know your campus ID, right? Specifically for your California community colleges, because it can definitely assist you, especially when linking your application, as far as like automatically populating those courses that you've taken, especially at a partner community college. And then lastly, if you're interested in the EOP program, not only do you need some parent employment backgrounds, but you need those 2 letters of recommendation as well. So I would definitely start working on those so you can kind of get that conversation going with your recommenders. All right, folks. And then lastly, we're just going to go ahead and make a quick little do and don't situation for you. Essentially, there's going to be some things that we do want you to do and some things that we don't want you to do, right? So we do want you to go ahead and take a look at your dates and deadlines for the application, right? So even if you don't have time to like start working on the application now, at least set up the application, take a look at the deadlines. If not, at the very least, look at the general CSU application website so you can know like by when you have to get everything submitted. As I mentioned earlier, the extended profile kind of sets the tone for the entire application. So if you do something wrong or if you indicate like the incorrect unit count, whether you're a lower division or upper division transfer student, it's going to have a direct impact on the rest of the application. So you definitely want to make sure you're selecting the correct option to report it accurately. Do review the transfer application guide on the CSU website. But if you find that too overwhelming, we have a really easy one to look at Cal State LA on our website. Please review the fee waiver checklist as well, just to see if you're eligible to avoid that $70 fee for each application. And then, of course, just view the summary page at the end of the application to ensure that everything looks accurate. Don't just kind of like zoom through it. Just kind of like take one quick look, see if everything looks good. What we don't want you to do is do not start the application late, right? So if the application is due August 31st, which it is, so in a little over 2 weeks, we don't want you to start it on August 30th, right? Or August 31st, right? Because there may be some questions that you may have, or you don't know how to fill out a certain portion of the application, and that's where you would go ahead and give us a call, right? So we can assist you. But the only way you can do that is if you go ahead and plan accordingly, right? If you go ahead and proactively start the application early to avoid any of those common issues, right? We definitely have friendly staff that are happy to talk to you here at Cal State LA. So give us a call. We're open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. if you want to visit us in person, but our phones are open from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at this time. Don't create your Cal State Apply with a email you rarely use or an email that you may or may not have access to by the time you start here, right? So for example, you don't want to use your community college email because you may or may not have access to it when you need to receive important correspondence from us. So for example, your offer of admission or when you owe us like certain documents, right? Um, Arguably the most important, which I've been kind of talking about all day, is you don't want to fill things out from memory because this is a very common issue, right? So students oftentimes like they'll be like, oh, like I don't have my unofficial transcript here, but I know I took English my freshman year, and I'm pretty sure I got a B grade, right? Do we want you to do everything accurately? Because ultimately, we're gonna find out anyway, as far as like what information is on your transcript, right? Because you're gonna have to send us unofficial transcripts, official transcripts, and all that stuff. So if we do see that there is an error, we'll go ahead and obviously correct it on your end, but we're gonna see that information regardless. Mhm. Also, don't leave out any in-progress coursework, which is also very important. So if you're currently taking any courses, again, all of the requirements, all of your courses need to have been met by the end of summer, right? Which is again the term that's coming to an end now. However, if you're currently taking any fall grades, or I'm sorry, any fall classes to the semester that's about to start, we definitely want to know which courses you're taking, right? And that's what we call supplemental criteria. It's not necessarily needed in part of the admission criteria, but if you want to just go ahead and take additional units, maybe save some money, that's completely okay. But we need to know what courses you're taking for the fall. All right, folks. And again, I cannot emphasize enough. If you have any questions, please, please, please give us a call. That's our phone number, 323-343-3901. Our phone lines are open from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. However, our offices are open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Okay, so feel free to drop by on the first floor of the Student Services Building. That's our like a little admission center, just in case you have any transcripts you want to drop off or just ask any general questions. Otherwise, you're more than welcome to send us an email. That's our email right there at the bottom. It's admission@calstatela.edu. So we definitely look forward to hearing from you.